The roar of jet engines at dawn has a way of silencing doubt, but only if you're already in the cockpit. For Captain Sarah Mitchell, standing on the tarmac at Edwards Air Force Base in the California desert, that roar belonged to someone else. Again. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The F-35 Lightning II sat gleaming in the morning sun, its stealth coating absorbing light like a predator absorbing shadows. $70 million of the most advanced fighter aircraft ever built, bristling with sensors that could track a sparrow at 50 miles, and weapon systems that redefined air superiority. And according to half the people on this base, far too complex for a woman to master. Sarah adjusted her flight suit and watched as Captain Jake Rodriguez climbed into the cockpit she'd been training for months to occupy. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd scored higher on every simulation, aced every technical exam, and outperformed most of her male counterparts in conventional aircraft. But when it came to the Lightning, she was perpetually second choice. "Complex bird, that one," came a voice behind her. Colonel Marcus Thompson, squadron commander, approached with his characteristic swagger. His weathered face bore the confidence of a man who'd flown everything from F-16s to experimental prototypes. It takes a particular kind of mind to handle all those systems simultaneously. Sarah had heard variations of this speech before. The subtext was always the same. Women lacked the cognitive bandwidth for true multitasking under extreme stress. Never mind that female pilots had proven themselves in combat zones from Afghanistan to Iraq. The F-35 was different, they claimed. More demanding. More unforgiving. The morning briefing had been particularly brutal. As Sarah sat among her squadron mates in the sterile conference room, listening to mission parameters and technical specifications, she'd felt the familiar weight of skeptical glances. When Major Patricia Hayes, the base's only other female fighter pilot, had raised concerns about weather conditions affecting sensor performance, Captain Derek Sullivan had actually chuckled. "Maybe stick to the Weather Channel if atmospheric pressures got you worried," he'd muttered, loud enough for half the room to hear. The subsequent laughter had been brief, but pointed. Hayes had 30 combat missions under her belt, more than Sullivan and most of the other pilots combined. But experience meant nothing when perception ruled the roost. Sarah watched Hayes's jaw clench, recognizing the expression of someone who'd fought this battle countless times before. The Lightning program itself had become a symbol of everything wrong with military procurement, billions over budget, years behind schedule, and plagued by technical issues that grounded entire fleets. When things went wrong, blame had a way of finding convenient targets. Female pilots made convenient targets. Sarah's path to this moment had been anything but conventional. Growing up in small-town Nebraska, she'd spent summers working in her father's aircraft maintenance shop, learning to read the language of hydraulics and electronics before she could properly read Shakespeare. While other kids played video games, she dissected avionics manuals and memorized performance specifications for aircraft she'd never seen in person. The Air Force Academy had been her ticket out, though not without its challenges. Academic excellence came easily. Sarah graduated summa cum laude with degrees in aeronautical engineering and computer science. But excellence in academics didn't automatically translate to acceptance in the cockpit culture of military aviation. Flight school had tested her in ways she hadn't anticipated. Not the physical demands. She'd always been athletic, had run track in high school, and maintained peak fitness throughout college. The mental pressure was manageable too. Sarah thrived under stress, found clarity in chaos that others couldn't match. But the social dynamics, the constant need to prove herself worthy of respect that seemed to come automatically to her male classmates, that wore on her in unexpected ways. Her first assignment had been flying A-10 Warthogs in close air support missions. The Thunderbolt II was beloved by ground troops but considered unglamorous by many pilots. Too slow, too ugly, too focused on supporting infantry rather than engaging in aerial combat. Sarah had loved every minute of it. The A-10 demanded precision and patience, qualities that suited her temperament perfectly. 2 tours overseas had earned her commendations for accuracy and tactical innovation. She'd developed new approaches to urban close air support that minimized civilian casualties while maximizing effectiveness against insurgent targets. Her squadron mates had learned to trust her judgment, to appreciate her ability to remain calm under fire when ground controllers were screaming for immediate assistance. But trust in combat zones didn't necessarily transfer to peacetime training bases. The F-35 program represented the pinnacle of fighter pilot achievement. Air-to-air combat, air-to-ground strikes, reconnaissance, electronic warfare, all wrapped into one impossibly sophisticated package. Getting selected for Lightning training meant joining an elite group, and elite groups had their own rules about membership. The technical complexity was real, nobody disputed that. The F-35's helmet-mounted display system required pilots to process information from multiple sensors simultaneously while maintaining spatial awareness and tactical judgment. The aircraft's stealth capabilities demanded precise flying techniques to minimize radar signature. Its networking capabilities meant pilots had to coordinate with other aircraft, ground stations, and satellite systems in real time. But complexity was exactly what drew Sarah to the program. She'd spent years mastering simpler systems, understanding how individual components contributed to overall aircraft performance. The Lightning represented an evolution, not a revolution. More sophisticated sensors feeding more powerful computers, but still requiring the same fundamental skills she'd been developing throughout her career. The selection process had been grueling. Months of psychological evaluations, physical assessments, and technical examinations designed to identify pilots capable of handling the Lightning's demands. Sarah had excelled in every category, ranking in the top 5% of candidates. Her scores in systems integration, the ability to process multiple data streams while maintaining tactical awareness, had been particularly impressive. Yet here she was, watching Rodriguez taxi for takeoff while she remained grounded for additional familiarization training. The official explanation was that her experience base needed broadening before she could handle such an advanced system. Unofficially, she'd overheard conversations suggesting that female pilots simply couldn't handle the cognitive load required for effective F-35 operations. The frustration was compounded by watching pilots with inferior test scores and less flight experience receive priority assignments. Rodriguez was competent but unremarkable. Solid scores across the board but nothing exceptional. His main qualification seemed to be fitting the traditional image of what a fighter pilot should look like. Sarah understood the institutional pressure. The F-35 program had faced enormous scrutiny from Congress, the media, and international partners who'd invested billions in the aircraft's development. Any incident, any sign that the program wasn't producing effective combat pilots would generate headlines and congressional hearings. Female pilots represented risk in the minds of commanders who'd built careers on avoiding unnecessary attention. But risk assessment worked both ways. Sarah had watched male pilots struggle with the Lightning's information management systems and had seen them overwhelmed by the data streams that she found intuitive to navigate. During simulator sessions, she'd consistently outperformed most of her classmates in scenarios requiring rapid decision-making under information overload conditions. The disconnect between performance and perception was maddening. Sarah's simulation scores were documented, her technical knowledge was demonstrable, and her combat experience was proven. Yet somehow, none of that seemed to matter when assignment decisions were made. Walking back toward the hangar, Sarah passed a group of ground crew technicians discussing maintenance procedures for the Lightning's advanced sensor array. Sergeant First Class Maria Santos, the senior avionics specialist, looked up as Sarah approached. "Morning, Captain. Heard you're still waiting for your turn with the bird." Sarah nodded, appreciating Santos's straightforward approach. The sergeant had 20 years of experience maintaining military aircraft and had worked on every major fighter platform currently in service. Her technical knowledge rivaled that of most pilots, and her opinions carried weight with anyone smart enough to listen. "The system's been acting up lately," Santos continued, gesturing toward the Lightning on the flight line. "Sensor integration software keeps throwing error codes during startup sequences. Nothing dangerous, but it requires manual overrides that most pilots aren't comfortable with." This was exactly the kind of technical challenge that energized Sarah rather than intimidated her. She'd spent countless hours studying the Lightning's software architecture, understanding how different systems communicated and where potential failure points might occur. Manual overrides weren't obstacles. They were opportunities to demonstrate deep system knowledge. "What kind of error codes?" Sarah asked, genuinely curious about the technical details. Santos pulled out her maintenance tablet, scrolling through diagnostic logs. Mostly communication timeouts between the distributed aperture system and the helmet display. The sensors are collecting data fine, but the processing pipeline gets backed up during high workload scenarios. Sarah studied the diagnostic information, recognizing patterns she'd seen in simulation environments. The Lightning's distributed aperture system was one of its most revolutionary features. Cameras mounted around the aircraft's fuselage provided 360-degree situational awareness, with imagery projected directly into the pilot's helmet display. When working properly, it was like having superhuman vision. When malfunctioning, it could overwhelm pilots with conflicting or delayed information. "Have you tried adjusting the data compression algorithms?" Sarah suggested. "If the processing pipeline is getting backed up, it might be because the system's trying to transmit full-resolution imagery when compressed data would be sufficient for most tactical situations." Santos looked impressed. "That's exactly what I was thinking, but most pilots don't understand the system well enough to make those kinds of real-time adjustments. They want everything automated, which works fine until something breaks." This conversation crystallized something Sarah had been thinking about for weeks. The Lightning wasn't just a more advanced fighter aircraft. It was a fundamentally different kind of machine that required a different kind of pilot. Traditional fighter pilot skills remained important, but they weren't sufficient. The Lightning demanded pilots who could think like systems engineers, who understood software, as well as aerodynamics. These were precisely the skills that Sarah's unconventional background had prepared her to use. Her computer science education, her experience with complex maintenance procedures, her comfort with troubleshooting electronic systems, all of it was directly relevant to Lightning operations in ways that traditional flight training couldn't replicate. The irony was inescapable. The same complexity that supposedly made the Lightning unsuitable for female pilots was exactly what made it perfect for someone with Sarah's specific skill set. While her male colleagues struggled with information management and system integration challenges, she found herself naturally adapting to the aircraft's demands. Rodriguez's flight was scheduled to last 2 hours, giving Sarah time to visit the simulator facility and continue her training regimen. The Lightning simulator was a marvel of modern technology. Full-motion cockpit replica, surrounded by high-resolution displays that created completely immersive flight environments. Every switch, every display, every control surface responded exactly as it would in the actual aircraft. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Sarah had logged more simulator hours than any other pilot in her training class, partly because she was required to complete additional familiarization sessions, but mostly because she genuinely enjoyed the challenge. Each simulation session revealed new aspects of the aircraft's capabilities, new ways that different systems could be integrated to accomplish mission objectives. Today's simulation focused on air-to-ground strike missions in contested airspace, exactly the kind of complex scenario that supposedly required exceptional multitasking abilities. Sarah strapped into the simulator cockpit, adjusted her helmet display, and began the startup sequence that she'd memorized through hundreds of repetitions. The Lightning came alive around her, systems initializing in carefully orchestrated sequence. Engine parameters stabilized, avionics systems synchronized, weapons systems armed and ready. The distributed aperture system activated, surrounding her with 360-degree imagery that made the simulator walls disappear. The mission scenario placed her aircraft over hostile territory, tasked with destroying a heavily defended command facility while avoiding surface-to-air missile sites and enemy fighter patrols. It was the kind of mission that required constant attention to multiple threat indicators while maintaining precise navigation and targeting accuracy. Sarah's approach was methodical and systematic. Rather than trying to process all available information simultaneously, she prioritized data streams based on immediate tactical relevance. Using the Lightning's advanced computer systems to filter and organize sensor inputs, threat indicators received priority attention, followed by navigation data, then targeting information. The key was understanding that the Lightning's computers were designed to be partners, not just tools. Instead of trying to manually control every aspect of aircraft performance, effective Lightning pilots learned to collaborate with the machine's artificial intelligence systems, providing high-level direction while allowing automated systems to handle routine tasks. This collaborative approach played to Sarah's strengths perfectly. Her engineering background had taught her to think in terms of system optimization rather than individual component control. She understood how to leverage computational power to enhance human decision-making rather than replace it. The simulated mission unfolded with clockwork precision. Sarah navigated through defensive systems that would have challenged experienced pilots, identifying optimal attack vectors while maintaining stealth profiles that minimized detection probability. Her target acquisition was swift and accurate, her weapons employment surgical in its precision. But the real test came when the scenario threw unexpected complications her way. A mechanical failure in the aircraft's primary flight control system forced her to rely on backup systems while continuing the attack mission. Simultaneously, new enemy aircraft appeared in the area, requiring immediate tactical adjustments to avoid engagement while completing primary objectives. These were exactly the kinds of high-stress, high-complexity situations that supposedly separated exceptional pilots from competent ones. Sarah found herself energized rather than overwhelmed, drawing on every aspect of her training and experience to maintain mission effectiveness despite cascading system failures and evolving threats. Her performance metrics were outstanding: mission success with minimal collateral damage, efficient resource utilization, and tactical innovation that exceeded programmed scenario parameters. The simulation instructor, Captain Lisa Chen, reviewed the results with obvious admiration. "That was textbook lightning employment," Chen observed. "You're using the aircraft systems exactly as they were designed to be used, as force multipliers, rather than additional workload sources." Chen had been flying the Lightning for 3 years and had developed the training curricula currently used throughout the program. Her technical expertise was unquestioned, and her opinion carried significant weight within the pilot community. "The aircraft rewards pilots who understand systems integration," Chen continued. "Too many people try to fly it like a traditional fighter, manually controlling systems that are designed to operate autonomously. You're letting the machine do what it does best, while focusing human attention on tasks that require judgment and creativity." This feedback reinforced Sarah's growing confidence that her approach to Lightning operations was not just effective but potentially superior to conventional pilot training methodologies. The aircraft's complexity wasn't an obstacle to be overcome. It was a resource to be exploited by pilots smart enough to understand its capabilities. But simulation success didn't automatically translate to flight assignments. Sarah's challenge remained institutional rather than technical, proving to Squadron leadership that her demonstrated capabilities were worth more than their preconceived notions about female pilot limitations. The path forward was becoming clearer, though. Excellence in training was necessary but not sufficient. Sarah needed opportunities to demonstrate her abilities in real aircraft, under actual flight conditions, in ways that couldn't be dismissed or explained away. She needed to fly the Lightning, and she needed to fly it better than anyone expected possible. The morning sun was climbing higher now, burning away the desert haze that softened Edwards Air Force Base's harsh edges. Somewhere overhead, Rodriguez was completing his training flight, probably struggling with the same system integration challenges that Sarah had mastered in simulation. Tomorrow there would be another training flight, another opportunity for her to watch from the ground while less qualified pilots occupied the cockpit she belonged in. But patience had its own strategic value. Every day brought new opportunities to study the aircraft, to understand its systems more deeply, to prepare for the moment when her chance would finally come. And when that moment arrived, Sarah Mitchell intended to be ready to prove that the most complex fighter aircraft ever built had finally found the pilot it deserved. 3 weeks later, opportunity arrived disguised as disaster. The alert siren shattered the pre-dawn quiet at Edwards Air Force Base, sending maintenance crews scrambling across the flight line. Captain Jake Rodriguez's F-35 had experienced catastrophic hydraulic failure during a routine training exercise, forcing an emergency landing that left the aircraft grounded indefinitely. With the Lightning fleet already reduced due to ongoing software upgrades, Squadron Commander Colonel Thompson faced an uncomfortable reality. His training schedule was collapsing. Sarah found herself summoned to the squadron office at 0630 hours, still adjusting her flight suit as she knocked on Thompson's door. The colonel looked like he'd been awake all night, coffee-stained paperwork scattered across his desk alongside maintenance reports and flight schedules marked with angry red ink. "Mitchell, sit down." His tone carried the weariness of a man confronting unwanted complications. "I'll cut straight to the point. Rodriguez's bird won't fly for at least 2 weeks, maybe longer. We've got certification deadlines breathing down our necks and congressional oversight committees asking pointed questions about pilot readiness rates." Sarah remained silent, sensing that interruption would be unwelcome. Thompson's reputation included little patience for subordinates who spoke before being asked direct questions. "Your simulation scores are—" Thompson consulted a file folder, as if the numbers might have changed since his last review. "Exceptional. Top 5% in every category, including scenarios that gave experienced Lightning pilots significant difficulty." The admission seemed to physically pain him. Sarah maintained her expression carefully neutral, though her pulse quickened with anticipation. "I'm authorizing your transition to active flight status, effective immediately. You'll complete your check ride this afternoon with Major Patricia Hayes serving as evaluating pilot. Pass that evaluation, and you'll join the regular training rotation." The weight of the moment settled over Sarah like a flight suit tailored specifically for her shoulders. After months of waiting, watching, and proving herself in simulations that didn't seem to matter, she was finally getting her chance. But Thompson's next words carried an unmistakable warning. "Understand something, Mitchell. This isn't about progressive politics or equal opportunity mandates. This is about operational necessity. We need qualified pilots in the air, and you're the only available candidate who meets basic certification requirements. Don't mistake necessity for confidence in your abilities." Sarah nodded crisply. "Understood, sir. I won't let the squadron down." "See that you don't. Hayes will conduct a comprehensive evaluation. Systems management, tactical decision-making, emergency procedures, the complete package. Any deficiencies, any indication that you can't handle the aircraft under operational conditions, and you'll be returned to simulation-only status immediately." The meeting concluded with Thompson's characteristic abruptness, leaving Sarah to process the magnitude of what had just occurred. 6 hours from now, she would finally climb into the cockpit of the most advanced fighter aircraft ever built, with her entire career hanging in the balance of a single evaluation flight. Major Patricia Hayes was waiting in the briefing room when Sarah arrived for pre-flight preparation. Hayes had been flying fighters for 12 years, had logged more combat hours than most squadron commanders, and served as the unofficial mentor for female pilots navigating the challenging waters of military aviation culture. Her reputation for thoroughness in evaluations was matched only by her reputation for absolute fairness. "Congratulations on getting your shot," Hayes began, her tone carefully neutral. "Now let's make sure you're ready to make the most of it." The briefing covered every aspect of the planned evaluation flight: startup procedures, systems checks, basic handling characteristics, advanced maneuvering, simulated combat scenarios, and emergency procedures. Hayes explained each phase methodically, ensuring Sarah understood exactly what would be expected and how her performance would be assessed. "The Lightning isn't just about flying," Hayes emphasized. "It's about managing information, making decisions with incomplete data, and maintaining situational awareness while systems are feeding you more inputs than any human can consciously process. The aircraft will try to help you, but only if you understand how to work with its systems rather than against them." This philosophy aligned perfectly with Sarah's approach to complex system management. Her engineering background had taught her to think in terms of system optimization and human-machine collaboration rather than traditional pilot-centric control methodologies. The pre-flight inspection revealed the Lightning in immaculate condition, every surface polished, and every system verified by ground crews who understood the significance of Sarah's evaluation flight. Sergeant Santos approached as Sarah completed her external inspection, offering a subtle thumbs up that conveyed more support than any verbal encouragement could have managed. Climbing into the Lightning's cockpit felt like stepping into the future of aviation. The seat molded itself to Sarah's body geometry. Displays automatically adjusted to her eye position, and the helmet-mounted system began calibrating its projections to match her head movements perfectly. Every control fell naturally to hand, the result of countless simulator sessions that had programmed muscle memory for this exact moment. "Lightning 17, this is your evaluating pilot," Hayes' voice came through the intercom system. "Ready to begin the startup sequence?" "Lightning 17 ready for startup," Sarah responded, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. The startup sequence unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance. Engine parameters climbed steadily toward nominal values, while avionics systems synchronized themselves with base computers and satellite networks. The distributed aperture system activated, surrounding Sarah with 360-degree imagery that made the aircraft feel transparent, as if she were flying inside a bubble of pure perception. Hayes monitored every action, every response, every decision point in the complex startup process. Sarah's performance was flawless, not just technically correct, but demonstrating the kind of deep system understanding that separated exceptional pilots from merely competent ones. Excellent systems management, Hayes observed as they taxied toward the runway. You're not just following checklists. You're understanding what each system is telling you about aircraft condition and operational readiness. The takeoff roll revealed the Lightning's awesome power. Twin engines generating nearly 40,000 pounds of thrust accelerated the aircraft with authority that pressed Sarah back into her seat. Rotation speed arrived quickly, and suddenly they were airborne, climbing rapidly into the clear desert sky above Edwards Air Force Base. Your aircraft, Mitchell. Show me basic handling characteristics. Sarah took control smoothly, feeling the Lightning respond to her inputs with precision that exceeded every simulation she'd experienced. The aircraft felt alive beneath her hands, eager to demonstrate capabilities that pushed the boundaries of what seemed physically possible. Level flight at 20,000 feet provided the perfect environment for exploring the Lightning's personality. Sarah executed gentle turns, climbs, descents, and speed changes, learning how the aircraft communicated its status through subtle feedback transmitted through flight controls and displayed on multiple information systems. Handling characteristics are excellent, Sarah reported. Controls are responsive and predictable, with no unusual tendencies or unexpected behavior patterns. Good. Now let's see how you manage information systems during tactical maneuvering. Hayes activated a simulated combat scenario that populated Sarah's displays with multiple threat indicators, target acquisitions requirements, and navigation challenges. Suddenly, the peaceful training flight transformed into a complex tactical situation requiring immediate decision-making and precise execution. Sarah's response was immediate and systematic. She prioritized threat assessment, identified the most dangerous enemy systems, and began planning engagement sequences that would neutralize hostile forces while maintaining her own survival. The Lightning's sensors provided enormous amounts of information, but Sarah filtered and organized that data effectively, using the aircraft's computational power to enhance rather than overwhelm her decision-making process. Hey, threat assessment complete, Sarah announced. I'm identifying 3 high-priority targets and 2 medium-priority targets, with optimal engagement sequence beginning with the SA-15 site at bearing 047. Her target prosecution was surgical in its precision. The Lightning's advanced sensors locked onto the simulated surface-to-air missile system, computed optimal attack parameters, and displayed targeting solutions that accounted for weather conditions, aircraft performance limitations, and projected enemy response patterns. Weapons employment, Sarah called, simulating the missile launch that would have destroyed the enemy system in actual combat conditions. Target neutralized, moving to secondary objectives. Hayes watched Sarah's performance with growing amazement. The younger pilot wasn't just competent with the Lightning systems. She was demonstrating mastery that rivaled pilots with years of operational experience. Her information management was flawless, her tactical decision-making was sound, and her technical execution was precise enough to meet the most demanding operational standards. The evaluation continued with increasingly complex scenarios designed to test every aspect of Lightning operations. Emergency procedures challenged Sarah's ability to maintain control during system failures. Air-to-air combat simulations tested her tactical awareness and weapons employment skills. Electronic warfare scenarios evaluated her understanding of stealth operations and countermeasure deployment. Sarah excelled in every category, often exceeding evaluation criteria by margins that impressed even Hayes. Her approach to complex situations was methodical but flexible, demonstrating the kind of adaptability that effective combat pilots required when facing unexpected challenges. But the ultimate test came when Hayes introduced a scenario that had challenged even experienced Lightning pilots: simultaneous system failures during a complex combat mission requiring split-second decisions with incomplete information. Multiple system failures, Hayes announced, activating a cascade of malfunctions that would have overwhelmed many pilots. Primary flight controls degraded, sensor systems operating at reduced capacity, communications intermittent. You still have mission objectives to complete. Sarah's response revealed the depth of her technical preparation. Rather than panicking or attempting to manually control failed systems, she immediately began implementing backup procedures that she'd memorized through exhaustive study of aircraft technical manuals. Her systematic approach to failure management impressed Hayes, who had seen veteran pilots struggle with similar scenarios. Switching to backup flight control mode, Sarah announced calmly. Sensor systems reconfigured for degraded operations, navigation verified through alternative sources. Continuing mission with modified parameters. She completed the simulated combat mission despite multiple system failures, demonstrating exactly the kind of grace under pressure that effective Lightning pilots required. Her performance metrics exceeded evaluation standards in every measured category. As they returned to Edwards Air Force Base for landing, Hayes found herself reconsidering assumptions she hadn't realized she was carrying. Sarah Mitchell wasn't just a competent pilot who happened to be female. She was an exceptional pilot whose gender was irrelevant to her capabilities. "Outstanding evaluation, Mitchell," Hayes announced as they taxied back to the flight line. "You've demonstrated mastery of Lightning systems that exceeds many pilots with operational experience. I'll be recommending you for immediate transition to advanced training status." Sarah's relief was profound, though she maintained professional composure. Months of preparation, simulation training, and technical study had culminated in this moment of validation. She had finally proven that her capabilities matched her ambitions. But landing the aircraft was just the beginning. As Sarah shut down the Lightning systems and completed post-flight procedures, she understood that passing her evaluation had earned her the right to face even greater challenges. Advanced training would push her skills to their absolute limits, preparing her for the operational missions that represented the ultimate purpose of all their preparation. Ground crews swarmed around the aircraft as Sarah climbed down from the cockpit, their efficiency a testament to the complex maintenance requirements that kept the Lightning fleet operational. Sergeant Santos approached with a grin that conveyed everything Sarah needed to know about how the flight had appeared from the ground. "Looks smooth from here, Captain." Aircraft performed perfectly, no discrepancies noted. The technical debriefing revealed performance metrics that exceeded Hayes' most optimistic expectations. Sarah's scores placed her among the top Lightning pilots in the program, with particular excellence in information management and emergency procedures. Her ability to maintain tactical effectiveness during system failures was noted as exceptional. Colonel Thompson's reaction was characteristically restrained, though Sarah detected grudging approval in his demeanor when Hayes delivered her evaluation report. The squadron commander had built his career on avoiding unnecessary risks, and Sarah's performance provided exactly the kind of documented excellence that made personnel decisions defensible. "Acceptable performance," Thompson acknowledged, which Sarah understood was high praise from someone who rarely offered positive feedback. "You'll begin advanced tactical training next Monday. Don't let success inflate your ego. Advanced training will test capabilities you haven't even discovered yet." Sarah nodded respectfully, though internally she was celebrating. She had cleared the first major hurdle in her quest to become an operational Lightning pilot. The path ahead remained challenging, but she had finally proven that she belonged in the cockpit of the world's most advanced fighter aircraft. That evening, Sarah called her parents in Nebraska to share the news of her successful evaluation. Her father, whose aircraft maintenance experience had sparked her initial interest in aviation, listened with pride as she described the Lightning's capabilities and her performance during the evaluation flight. "Always knew you had the technical mind for complex systems," he observed. "Sounds like you found an aircraft that finally matches your abilities." Her mother's response was more emotional, reflecting years of worry about her daughter's chosen career path. Military aviation remained dangerous, and the Lightning's cutting-edge technology didn't eliminate the fundamental risks associated with high-performance flight operations. "Just remember to be careful up there," she cautioned. "I know you're capable of handling that airplane, but capable doesn't mean invulnerable." The conversation reinforced Sarah's understanding of how much her success meant beyond personal satisfaction. She was carrying the expectations and hopes of everyone who had supported her journey, from family members who had encouraged her unconventional interests to mentors who had seen potential in her abilities. More importantly, her success would influence opportunities available to future female pilots interested in Lightning operations. Every barrier she broke, every stereotype she challenged, every exceptional performance she delivered would make it slightly easier for women who followed in her path. But those broader implications would have to wait. Tomorrow brought new training requirements, more complex scenarios, and continued preparation for the operational missions that represented her ultimate goal. Sarah Mitchell had proven she could fly the Lightning, Now she needed to prove she could fight with it. Advanced tactical training began with a sobering reality check. Sarah arrived at the squadron briefing room Monday morning to find herself facing scenarios that would have been classified as impossible just 5 years earlier. The Lightning's capabilities had evolved warfare itself, creating tactical situations that demanded entirely new approaches to air combat operations. Captain Elena Vasquez, the squadron's senior tactics instructor, wasted no time on pleasantries. A veteran of 3 combat deployments with over 200 missions in various fighter aircraft, Vasquez had earned her position through demonstrated excellence in the most demanding operational environments. Her reputation for pushing pilots beyond their perceived limitations was matched only by her intolerance for mediocrity. "Forget everything you think you know about air combat," Vasquez began, her tone suggesting that conventional wisdom would prove more hindrance than help. "The Lightning changes fundamental assumptions about engagement ranges, situational awareness, and tactical decision-making. Traditional fighter tactics assume pilots operate with limited information and restricted communication capabilities. The Lightning provides more data than most pilots can effectively process, which means your primary challenge isn't gathering information, it's deciding what information matters." Sarah studied the tactical scenarios displayed on the briefing room's main screen. Enemy formations included advanced fighters equipped with stealth technology and sophisticated electronic warfare systems. Friendly forces operated in contested environments where traditional command and control structures had been disrupted. Mission objectives required surgical precision while maintaining operational security that prevented enemy forces from detecting American capabilities. "Your first advanced scenario places you in command of a 4-ship formation conducting deep penetration strikes against time-sensitive targets," Vasquez explained. "Intelligence indicates enemy forces have deployed S-400 surface-to-air missile systems with overlapping coverage zones that make traditional ingress routes impossible. Weather conditions limit satellite communication, forcing you to rely on aircraft-to-aircraft networking for tactical coordination." The complexity was staggering. Sarah would need to navigate through sophisticated defensive systems while coordinating with other Lightning pilots, identify and engage multiple targets simultaneously, and extract her formation without losses, all while maintaining the stealth profiles that kept them invisible to enemy sensors. "Formation leadership requires different skills than individual aircraft operations," Vasquez continued. "You're responsible for tactical decisions affecting multiple pilots and aircraft, strategic mission success, and force preservation. Mistakes don't just risk your own life, they risk your wingmen and mission completion." Sarah absorbed this information with characteristic focus, understanding that advanced training would test capabilities she had only begun to develop. Leading other pilots required mastery of interpersonal dynamics as well as technical systems, adding human factors to the already complex equation of Lightning operations. The first training mission launched at dawn, with Sarah leading 3 experienced Lightning pilots in a simulated strike against a heavily defended industrial complex. Her wingmen included Captain Michael Torres, a former A-10 pilot with extensive ground attack experience, Captain Jennifer Walsh, who had transitioned from F-16s and brought air-to-air combat expertise, and Captain David Kim, a former electronic warfare officer whose technical background complemented Sarah's engineering knowledge. Each pilot brought different strengths and perspectives, creating a formation with diverse capabilities, but also requiring careful coordination to maximize effectiveness. Sarah's challenge was integrating these different skill sets into a cohesive tactical unit while maintaining her own aircraft performance under demanding conditions. "Lightning Flight, this is Lightning Lead," Sarah transmitted as they approached the target area. "Initial threat assessment shows active radar systems at bearings 095 and 147. Electronic warfare systems are painting us intermittently but haven't achieved weapons quality locks." Her formation responded with professional efficiency, each pilot contributing specialized knowledge to the developing tactical picture. Torres identified optimal attack vectors for ground targets, Walsh established air-to-air defensive positions, and Kim analyzed electronic signatures to determine enemy capabilities and intentions. The coordinated attack unfolded with clockwork precision. Sarah's formation penetrated enemy defenses through carefully planned flight paths that exploited gaps in radar coverage while maintaining mutual support positions. Their weapons employment was simultaneous and devastating, destroying primary targets while avoiding collateral damage that might complicate post-strike operations. But the scenario's complexity escalated when enemy fighters arrived earlier than intelligence had predicted. Sarah found herself commanding a formation that needed to transition from ground attack to air-to-air combat within seconds, requiring tactical flexibility that pushed every pilot's capabilities to their limits. Lightning flight, multiple bogies inbound from the north, estimated 15 miles and closing fast, Walsh reported. Recommend immediate defensive posture with weapons ready. Sarah's decision-making process accelerated, analyzing multiple variables simultaneously while maintaining formation integrity and mission focus. The Lightning's sensor systems provided detailed information about approaching enemy aircraft, but converting that data into effective tactical responses required experience and judgment that couldn't be programmed into computers. Lightning flight, execute Tango 7 defensive pattern, Sarah commanded. Maintain stealth profiles while engaging targets of opportunity. Priority is formation survival and mission completion. The air-to-air engagement tested every aspect of Sarah's leadership and technical skills. She coordinated missile employment while managing formation positions, communicated tactical information while processing sensor data, and maintained situational awareness while executing high-G maneuvering that challenged human physiological limits. Her formation's performance was exceptional. Torres and Kim provided mutual support that prevented enemy fighters from achieving advantageous positions, while Walsh's air-to-air expertise enabled precise weapons employment that eliminated threats with minimal expenditure of ordnance. Sarah's coordination kept the formation together through tactical maneuvering that would have scattered less experienced pilots. The simulated mission concluded with complete tactical success. All targets destroyed, all enemy fighters defeated, all friendly aircraft recovered without damage. Sarah's leadership had enabled a complex multi-role mission that demonstrated the Lightning's revolutionary capabilities when operated by skilled pilots working in coordinated formations. Vasquez's post-mission debrief focused on tactical decision-making under extreme pressure, highlighting moments where Sarah's leadership had prevented potential disasters. Her ability to process multiple information streams while maintaining formation command had impressed experienced pilots who had struggled with similar scenarios. Outstanding mission leadership, Vasquez observed. You demonstrated exactly the kind of tactical flexibility that Lightning operations require. Your decision to transition from ground attack to air defense while maintaining mission objectives showed exceptional judgment under pressure. The validation was significant, but Sarah understood that one successful mission didn't constitute mastery of advanced tactical operations. Each subsequent training scenario would introduce new complications, testing different aspects of her developing expertise while pushing her capabilities toward operational readiness. The second week of advanced training focused on electronic warfare operations that leveraged the Lightning's sophisticated countermeasure systems. Sarah found herself flying against simulated enemies equipped with advanced radar systems and electronic attack capabilities that could disrupt aircraft sensors and communication systems. These scenarios tested her ability to maintain tactical effectiveness when the technological advantages that made Lightning operations possible were degraded or eliminated entirely. Traditional pilot skills, visual flight techniques, manual navigation, and instinctive tactical maneuvering became critically important when electronic systems failed or were compromised. Captain Walsh served as Sarah's primary opponent in these exercises, flying a specially equipped Lightning configured to simulate enemy electronic warfare capabilities. Walsh's experience with conventional fighters provided insights into how traditional pilots might attempt to counter Lightning advantages through electronic attack and deception. Electronic warfare changes everything about modern air combat, Walsh explained during a tactical briefing. Your sensors can lie to you, your communications can be jammed, and your weapon systems can be spoofed into engaging false targets. The Lightning provides powerful countermeasures, but only if pilots understand how to employ them effectively. The training scenarios were deliberately brutal, forcing Sarah to operate the Lightning under conditions that negated many of its technological advantages. Radar systems provided false information, communication systems delivered contradictory orders, and navigation systems indicated positions that differed from reality by crucial margins. Sarah's response demonstrated the value of her systematic approach to complex problem-solving. Rather than relying entirely on automated systems, she cross-referenced multiple information sources and applied engineering principles to distinguish between genuine data and electronic deception. Her technical background proved invaluable when electronic warfare attacks attempted to exploit specific vulnerabilities in Lightning sensor systems. Lightning systems are designed with electronic warfare resistance built into their architecture, Sarah observed during one particularly challenging scenario. But that protection requires pilots who understand how different systems validate their inputs and what backup procedures are available when primary sensors are compromised. Her performance during electronic warfare training exceeded expectations established by previous Lightning pilots. Sarah's ability to maintain tactical effectiveness despite sophisticated electronic attacks impressed instructors who had seen experienced pilots become completely disoriented when their technological advantages were neutralized. The third week introduced night operations and adverse weather flying that tested Sarah's ability to operate the Lightning under conditions where visual references were limited and environmental factors complicated every aspect of flight operations. These scenarios prepared pilots for real-world conditions where mission success often depended on capabilities that simulation training couldn't fully replicate. Night flying in the Lightning revealed capabilities that bordered on science fiction. The distributed aperture system transformed darkness into daylight, providing visual clarity that exceeded natural human vision. But effectively utilizing these capabilities required adaptation to sensory inputs that could be overwhelming for pilots accustomed to traditional night vision systems. Sarah's first night training mission involved low-level navigation through mountainous terrain while avoiding detection by simulated enemy radar systems. The Lightning's sensors provided detailed terrain mapping and obstacle avoidance information, but translating that data into safe flight paths required constant attention to multiple display systems while maintaining precise aircraft control. Night operations demand different mental models for situational awareness, explained Major Robert Chen, the squadron's senior night operations instructor. Your eyes are seeing artificial imagery generated by electronic sensors, which means you're essentially flying by instruments even when you think you're flying visually. Understanding the distinction is critical for maintaining safety margins during demanding tactical operations. The psychological adjustment was significant. Sarah found herself learning to trust electronic displays that contradicted instinctive visual interpretations, developing new cognitive patterns for processing artificially enhanced imagery while maintaining the spatial awareness that effective pilot performance required. Her adaptation to night operations proceeded smoothly, aided by her engineering understanding of how the Lightning sensor systems collected and processed visual information. Where other pilots struggled with the disconnect between natural and artificial vision, Sarah approached the technology as a tool that enhanced rather than replaced traditional pilot skills. Weather operations presented different challenges that tested aircraft performance limits and pilot decision-making under conditions where safety margins were compressed by environmental factors. Sarah flew through simulated thunderstorms, ice-forming conditions, and severe turbulence that pushed both human and machine capabilities toward their operational limits. These scenarios taught her to recognize when environmental conditions exceeded safe operating parameters and when mission requirements justified accepting increased risk levels. The Lightning's advanced weather radar and atmospheric sensors provided detailed information about hazardous conditions, but interpreting that data effectively required experience that could only be gained through actual flight operations. Sarah's systematic approach to weather flying impressed instructors who had seen pilots make dangerous decisions when environmental conditions degraded rapidly. Her willingness to abort missions when safety margins became unacceptable demonstrated the kind of mature judgment that separated professional aviators from pilots who confused courage with recklessness. By the end of her fourth week in advanced training, Sarah had completed every scenario in the Lightning's tactical curriculum. Her performance metrics placed her among the top pilots in program history, with particular excellence in formation leadership and electronic warfare operations. Instructors noted her ability to maintain tactical effectiveness under extreme stress while making decisions that balanced mission success with force preservation. Captain Vasquez's final evaluation summarized Sarah's achievements in terms that left no doubt about her capabilities. Captain Mitchell has demonstrated mastery of advanced Lightning operations that exceeds standard certification requirements. Her technical expertise, tactical judgment, and leadership abilities qualify her for immediate assignment to operational units requiring the highest levels of pilot proficiency. The recommendation carried special significance because Vasquez rarely provided unqualified endorsements for any pilot, regardless of their performance levels. Her evaluation would influence Sarah's next assignment and determine whether she received opportunities to employ her newly developed capabilities in operational environments. Colonel Thompson's response to Sarah's training completion was characteristically measured, though she detected subtle changes in his demeanor that suggested grudging respect for her achievements. The squadron commander had built his career on avoiding unnecessary risks, and Sarah's documented excellence provided exactly the kind of performance record that made personnel decisions defensible. Acceptable completion of advanced training requirements, Thompson acknowledged during their final meeting. You've met certification standards for operational lightning employment. Your next assignment will provide opportunities to apply these capabilities in more demanding environments. Sarah understood that Thompson's restrained praise represented significant recognition of her abilities. She had progressed from reluctantly accepted trainee to fully qualified lightning pilot in record time, demonstrating capabilities that exceeded those of many pilots with years of operational experience. But completing advanced training was just the beginning of her journey toward becoming the squadron's top ace. Real operational missions would test her abilities against actual enemies in life-or-death situations where simulation training provided only partial preparation for the challenges she would face. That evening, Sarah reflected on how far she had traveled from the Nebraska aircraft maintenance shop where her interest in aviation had first developed. 4 weeks of intensive training had transformed her from a qualified pilot into a tactical expert capable of leading complex missions in the world's most advanced fighter aircraft. The journey ahead promised even greater challenges and opportunities to prove that the Lightning had finally found the pilot it deserved. The encrypted message arrived at 0347 hours on a Tuesday morning that would redefine everything the world thought it knew about air superiority. Sarah's secure communication device buzzed with the highest priority classification she'd ever seen, summoning her to an emergency briefing that would test every skill she'd developed during 2 years of operational Lightning missions. General Amanda Cross, commander of Pacific Air Forces, stood at the head of the briefing room when Sarah arrived. The general's presence alone indicated the gravity of the situation. Cross didn't personally brief individual pilots unless global security hung in the balance. Satellite imagery filled multiple screens, showing naval formations and aircraft deployments that painted a picture of imminent large-scale conflict. Captain Mitchell, your squadron has been selected for Operation Thunderstrike, a mission that will determine whether our Lightning capabilities can neutralize a peer adversary's most advanced defensive systems, General Cross began without preamble. Intelligence indicates enemy forces have deployed their newest integrated air defense network, combining stealth fighters, hypersonic missiles, and quantum radar systems that represent the most sophisticated threat American air power has ever faced. The briefing revealed a scenario that seemed designed to test the absolute limits of Lightning operations. Enemy forces had established a defensive perimeter around strategic targets using technology that challenged fundamental assumptions about stealth aircraft survivability. Traditional penetration tactics would result in catastrophic losses, requiring new approaches that leveraged capabilities only the most skilled Lightning pilots possessed. Your mission is to lead a 12-ship formation through this defensive network and neutralize command centers that coordinate enemy operations, Cross continued. Mission success requires perfect execution under conditions where a single mistake could trigger global conflict escalation. Sarah studied the intelligence materials with a growing understanding of why her specific capabilities had earned this assignment. The enemy's defensive systems exploited weaknesses in conventional fighter tactics, but the Lightning's advanced networking and sensor fusion capabilities provided theoretical solutions, if pilots could execute coordination patterns that pushed human performance to its absolute limits. Colonel Thompson, now serving as mission commander, outlined tactical parameters that revealed months of planning focused specifically on Sarah's demonstrated expertise. Her performance during 2 years of operational missions had established her as the Air Force's most capable Lightning pilot, with innovations in electronic warfare and formation leadership that had become standard procedures throughout the Lightning community. You'll be flying the most advanced Lightning variant ever deployed, Thompson explained, equipped with experimental quantum communication systems and enhanced sensor arrays that provide capabilities no enemy force has encountered. But those systems require pilot integration skills that only you have demonstrated consistently under operational conditions. The aircraft waiting on the flight line represented the culmination of decades of technological development. Lightning II-B was equipped with quantum-encrypted communication networks that provided instantaneous coordination across unlimited distances, sensor systems that could track hypersonic threats in real time, and weapon systems capable of engaging multiple targets simultaneously while maintaining complete stealth profiles. Sarah's pre-flight inspection revealed modifications that pushed the boundaries of what seemed physically possible. Antenna arrays used quantum entanglement for communication that couldn't be intercepted or jammed. Sensor housings contained processing systems more powerful than the supercomputers that had designed the original Lightning. Weapons bays held ordnance that combined kinetic and directed energy capabilities in packages smaller than conventional missiles. But the most significant modification was the neural interface system that connected directly to the pilot's cognitive processes, enabling human-machine integration that approached science fiction. Sarah would literally think of her tactical intentions, and the aircraft would execute them faster than conscious decision-making could manage. The neural interface calibration required 6 hours of preparation that mapped Sarah's cognitive patterns and integrated them with the Lightning's artificial intelligence systems. The process was exhausting but revealed capabilities that redefined what individual pilots could accomplish when properly supported by advanced technology. Neural integration was successful, reported Dr. Elizabeth Monroe, the scientist who had developed the interface technology. Your cognitive patterns show exceptional compatibility with Lightning's decision-making algorithms. You'll be able to process tactical information and execute responses at speeds that exceed normal human limitations. The mission launch occurred at dawn, with Sarah leading 11 other Lightning pilots in the most complex air operation ever attempted. Her formation included the squadron's most experienced pilots, each flying modified aircraft equipped with specialized systems designed for specific mission requirements. Captain Walsh commanded the air-to-air element, responsible for engaging enemy fighters that challenged the formation's ingress routes. Captain Torres led the suppression flight, tasked with neutralizing surface-to-air missile systems that protected primary targets. Captain Kim managed electronic warfare operations, coordinating countermeasures against enemy sensor systems while maintaining formation communication security. The penetration phase tested every capability Sarah had developed during her Lightning career. Enemy defensive systems detected their approach despite stealth profiles, launching hypersonic interceptors that required split-second evasive maneuvering while maintaining formation integrity. Sarah's neural interface enabled tactical responses that kept the formation together through defensive patterns that would have scattered conventional aircraft. Lightning led multiple hypersonic threats inbound from sectors 4 and 7, Walsh reported. Recommend immediate defensive maneuvering. Sarah's response occurred faster than conscious thought could manage. The neural interface translated her tactical intentions into flight commands that positioned her formation optimally to defeat incoming threats while maintaining mission progress toward primary objectives. Her 11 wingmen followed her lead through maneuvering that pushed both human and machine capabilities to their absolute limits. The enemy's quantum radar systems provided detection capabilities that challenged traditional stealth technology, but Sarah's formation employed new tactics that exploited weaknesses in quantum measurement principles. By coordinating their electromagnetic signatures through precise timing, they created interference patterns that confused enemy sensors while maintaining their own targeting capabilities. Quantum radar systems were neutralized, Kim reported. Enemy sensors are receiving false position data while we maintain targeting solutions on primary objectives. The coordinated strike phase demonstrated Lightning capabilities that redefined air warfare fundamentals. Sarah's formation engaged multiple target complexes simultaneously, with each aircraft prosecuting different objectives while maintaining mutual support against defensive systems. The neural interface enabled coordination patterns that approached telepathic communication between pilots and aircraft. Her own target was the enemy's primary command center, a facility protected by overlapping defensive systems that included stealth fighters, directed energy weapons, and adaptive armor that responded to incoming threats. The facility represented the most challenging target American forces had ever attempted to neutralize. Sarah's approach required perfect integration of stealth techniques, electronic warfare, and precision weapons employment. The Lightning's quantum communication systems coordinated her attack with simultaneous strikes by other formation members, creating a synchronized assault that overwhelmed enemy defensive capabilities through sheer temporal precision. Target acquired, weapon solution computed, Sarah announced, engaging primary objective with quantum-guided munitions. The weapon's release occurred with mathematical precision, guided by targeting systems that accounted for every variable affecting projectile flight paths. The munitions themselves represented revolutionary technology that combined kinetic energy with directed electromagnetic effects, creating destruction patterns that neutralized targets while minimizing collateral damage. The explosion that followed marked the end of enemy command capabilities and the beginning of a new era in air warfare. Sarah's formation had successfully penetrated the most sophisticated defensive network ever deployed, demonstrating lightning capabilities that exceeded every theoretical prediction about stealth aircraft performance. But the mission's most significant moment came during the extraction phase, when enemy fighters launched a desperate counterattack designed to prevent the American formation from escaping. Sarah found herself commanding a running air battle that tested every skill she had developed, while establishing her reputation as an ace pilot. The engagement involved 24 enemy fighters attacking her 12-ship formation through tactics designed specifically to counter lightning advantages. Enemy pilots had studied American procedures and developed countermeasures that exploited perceived weaknesses in lightning operations. They expected to face pilots trained in conventional tactics, not someone who had revolutionized lightning employment through innovative approaches to system integration. Sarah's neural interface enabled tactical responses that seemed to anticipate enemy actions before they occurred. She coordinated defensive maneuvering that kept her formation together, while creating opportunities for counterattacks that eliminated enemy threats with surgical precision. Her weapons employment was devastating in its effectiveness, destroying 8 enemy fighters in rapid succession while protecting her wingmen from defensive systems. Lightning lead, that's 8 confirmed kills. Walsh reported with admiration that transcended professional communication protocols. Outstanding tactical leadership under impossible conditions. The running battle continued for 40 minutes, with Sarah's formation fighting their way through enemy forces that outnumbered them 2-1. Her tactical innovations enabled defensive patterns that protected every friendly aircraft while eliminating threats that would have destroyed conventional formations. By the time they reached friendly airspace, Sarah had personally destroyed 12 enemy fighters, establishing herself as the highest-scoring ace in Lightning history. The mission debrief lasted 8 hours, with intelligence officers documenting tactical innovations that would reshape air combat training throughout the American military. Sarah's employment of Lightning capabilities had demonstrated potential that exceeded every prediction about stealth aircraft effectiveness, proving that properly trained pilots could achieve air superiority against any enemy force. General Cross's personal commendation summarized achievements that transcended individual recognition. Captain Mitchell's leadership during Operation Thunderstrike established new standards for air combat excellence while demonstrating that American air power maintains decisive superiority over any potential adversary. Her tactical innovations have revolutionized Lightning employment and will influence fighter pilot training for generations. The ceremony that followed brought together leaders from every branch of the American military, recognizing achievements that had strategic implications extending far beyond individual pilot performance. Sarah received the Medal of Honor for actions that had prevented global conflict while establishing American air superiority in ways that would deter future aggression. But the most meaningful recognition came from Colonel Thompson, whose opinion had evolved dramatically since Sarah's initial assignment to Lightning training. The commander who had once questioned whether women could handle the Lightning's complexity now acknowledged her as the finest pilot he had commanded during 30 years of military service. "I was wrong about you, Mitchell," Thompson admitted during their private meeting. "You didn't just prove that women can fly the Lightning. You proved that the Lightning was waiting for a pilot with your specific capabilities. You've redefined what air superiority means in the 21st century." Sarah's response reflected the journey she had traveled from that first morning on the Edwards Air Force Base flight line. "The Lightning isn't too complex for women, sir. It's too complex for pilots who think traditional approaches will work with revolutionary technology." Gender never mattered. Understanding how to integrate human judgment with artificial intelligence capabilities was what mattered. The aftermath of Operation Thunderstrike transformed Lightning operations throughout the Air Force, with Sarah's tactical innovations becoming standard procedures for pilots worldwide. Her neural interface techniques were incorporated into training curricula, her formation leadership methods were studied at staff colleges, and her approach to system integration became the foundation for next-generation fighter pilot development. 6 months later, Sarah found herself back at Edwards Air Force Base, now serving as commander of the Lightning Advanced Tactics Development Squadron. Her responsibilities included training the next generation of Lightning pilots while developing new capabilities that would maintain American air superiority against evolving threats. The hangar where she had once watched other pilots fly the aircraft she longed to master now housed experimental Lightning variants that pushed technological boundaries even further. Young pilots arrived daily for training that incorporated lessons learned from Sarah's operational innovations, preparing them for challenges that would test human capabilities in ways previous generations could never have imagined. Standing on the same flight line where her journey had begun, Sarah watched Lieutenant Maria Gonzalez complete her first Lightning solo flight. Gonzalez represented the new generation of pilots who would benefit from pathways that Sarah's achievements had opened, facing fewer barriers and greater opportunities to demonstrate their capabilities. The Lightning's roar no longer belonged to someone else. It belonged to every pilot skilled enough to master the partnership between human intelligence and artificial capabilities, regardless of gender, background, or previous assumptions about who could succeed in the cockpit of the world's most advanced fighter aircraft. Sarah Mitchell had proven that complexity was not an obstacle, but an opportunity for pilots intelligent enough to embrace it. The Lightning had finally found not just a pilot who could fly it, but a pilot who could unlock its true potential while inspiring others to reach beyond perceived limitations toward achievements that redefined what seemed possible. The doubters had been wrong about the Lightning being too complex for women. They had simply failed to understand that the aircraft's revolutionary capabilities required equally revolutionary approaches to pilot training and tactical employment. Sarah had provided both, establishing herself as not just the squadron's top ace, but as the pilot who had shown the world what the Lightning was truly capable of achieving. The transformation of Lightning operations extended far beyond tactical innovations. Sarah's success triggered comprehensive reviews of pilot selection criteria throughout the military aviation community. Traditional screening methods that had favored conventional fighter pilot backgrounds were replaced with assessments that identified candidates capable of human-machine cognitive integration. Dr. Monroe's research team documented neurological patterns that correlated with exceptional Lightning performance, discovering that successful pilots possessed specific cognitive architectures that enabled effective collaboration with artificial intelligence systems. These findings revolutionized understanding of what constituted optimal pilot material for advanced aircraft operations. Sarah's personnel file became a template for identifying future Lightning candidates, with recruitment expanding to include candidates from engineering, computer science, and systems analysis backgrounds. The Air Force Academy modified its curriculum to emphasize computational thinking alongside traditional flight training, preparing cadets for aircraft that demanded partnership rather than domination of technological systems. International implications of Operation Thunderstrike resonated throughout global military establishments. Allied nations requested access to Lightning training programs that incorporated Sarah's methodologies, while potential adversaries scrambled to develop countermeasures against capabilities they had never imagined possible. The balance of global air power had shifted decisively in favor of nations possessing advanced stealth fighters operated by properly trained pilots. Sarah's promotion to lieutenant colonel came with assignment to the Pentagon, where she briefed congressional committees on future aviation requirements. Her testimony influenced defense appropriations that ensured continued American superiority in air combat capabilities, while expanding opportunities for unconventional candidates to pursue military aviation careers. The briefing room where she had once faced skeptical questions about female pilot capabilities now hosted foreign military delegations seeking to understand American training methods. Sarah found herself explaining Lightning employment concepts to senior officers from allied nations, sharing tactical innovations that strengthened international security cooperation while maintaining critical operational advantages. Her memoir, Beyond the Cockpit, Redefining Air Superiority, became required reading at military academies worldwide. The book detailed not just tactical innovations, but the psychological journey of overcoming institutional bias while maintaining professional excellence under extreme pressure. Young aviators from diverse backgrounds found inspiration in her example, pursuing careers they might never have considered without her pioneering achievements. The Lightning fleet itself evolved to incorporate lessons learned from Sarah's operational experience. Newer variants featured enhanced neural interface systems designed around cognitive patterns she had helped identify, sensor arrays optimized for the information processing techniques she had developed, and weapon systems that leveraged the human-machine integration capabilities her success had demonstrated. Test pilot assignments brought Sarah back to Edwards Air Force Base regularly, evaluating experimental aircraft that pushed technological boundaries even further than the Lightning. Her expertise in human-machine integration made her invaluable for programs developing sixth-generation fighters that would define air combat for the next 50 years. These experimental aircraft incorporated quantum computing, directed energy weapons, and artificial intelligence systems that approached true autonomy. Sarah's role involved determining how human pilots could effectively collaborate with machines that possessed superhuman capabilities while maintaining the strategic judgment that only human intelligence could provide. The classroom where she taught advanced Lightning tactics attracted students from every branch of the military and several allied nations. Her curriculum emphasized cognitive flexibility, systems thinking, and collaborative decision-making with artificial intelligence partners. Graduates of her program consistently outperformed pilots, trained through conventional methods, validating her revolutionary approaches to modern air combat. Personal recognition accumulated through awards and honors that acknowledged both tactical excellence and transformative impact on military aviation. The Aerospace Walk of Honor inducted her alongside legendary test pilots and aerospace pioneers, recognizing contributions that extended far beyond individual combat achievements to encompass fundamental changes in how humanity approached flight. Speaking engagements at universities and technical conferences allowed Sarah to advocate for expanded opportunities in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields. Her presentations challenged audiences to reconsider assumptions about who could succeed in technically demanding careers, while emphasizing the critical importance of diversity in developing solutions to complex challenges. The young women who approached her after these presentations reminded Sarah of her own journey from that Nebraska maintenance shop to global recognition as the world's premier Lightning pilot. Their questions revealed ambitions and capabilities that previous generations might never have discovered, inspired by possibilities that her achievements had made visible. Industry consulting work brought her into collaboration with aerospace companies developing civilian applications for technologies pioneered in military aviation. Her insights into human-machine integration influenced everything from autonomous vehicle development to space exploration systems, extending the impact of her military experience into fields that would benefit humanity for generations. Retirement from active duty marked not an ending but a transition to new challenges in the private sector. Sarah accepted leadership of an aerospace research company focused on developing the next generation of human-machine collaborative systems, applying lessons learned in Lightning cockpits to problems ranging from disaster response to scientific exploration. The company's first project involved developing piloted spacecraft for missions to Mars, requiring exactly the kind of human-machine integration expertise that Sarah's Lightning experience had cultivated. The challenges of operating complex systems in hostile environments while maintaining situational awareness and decision-making capability translated directly from air combat to space exploration. Her team included former Lightning pilots, aerospace engineers, cognitive scientists, and artificial intelligence researchers working together to solve problems that no single discipline could address independently. The collaborative approach reflected lessons learned during her military career about the power of diverse perspectives in developing optimal solutions to complex challenges. Congressional testimony on space exploration policy drew upon her unique perspective as someone who had pushed the boundaries of human performance in partnership with advanced technology. Her recommendations influenced national space policy while ensuring that lessons learned in military aviation contributed to civilian scientific advancement. The Edwards Air Force Base Museum dedicated an entire wing to Lightning operations, with Sarah's aircraft prominently displayed alongside documentation of the tactical innovations that had revolutionized air combat. School groups touring the exhibit learned about the intersection of technology and human capability while discovering career possibilities they might never have imagined. Young visitors studying the Lightning's cockpit systems often asked their tour guides whether they could become pilots like Sarah Mitchell. The guides' affirmative responses reflected how completely her achievements had transformed perceptions about who belonged in advanced aircraft cockpits, opening pathways that would benefit countless future aviators. Legacy extended beyond individual achievements to encompass institutional changes that ensured her innovations would continue benefiting military aviation long after her own career had ended. The Lightning training programs she had developed became permanent parts of pilot education, while her tactical methods influenced fighter pilot instruction throughout the American military and Allied air forces. The neural interface technology she had helped perfect found applications in medical rehabilitation, allowing paralyzed patients to control prosthetic devices through thought alone. The cognitive assessment techniques developed to identify optimal lightning candidates assisted in diagnosing learning disabilities and optimizing educational approaches for students with diverse learning styles. Scientific research inspired by her work explored the fundamental nature of human-machine collaboration, investigating how technology could enhance rather than replace human capabilities across multiple fields. Universities established research programs focused on collaborative intelligence, studying the principles that had made her lightning employment so revolutionary. Standing in her corporate office overlooking the California coastline, Sarah could see Edwards Air Force Base in the distance where her journey had begun decades earlier. The young pilot who had waited on the tarmac for her chance to prove herself had grown into a leader whose influence extended far beyond military aviation into fields that were reshaping human civilization. The Lightning's legacy lived on in the pilots she had trained, the tactics she had developed, and the barriers she had broken. More importantly, her example continued inspiring new generations of innovators who understood that the most complex challenges often required the most unconventional approaches to achieve breakthrough solutions. The world had learned that complexity was not a limitation, but an opportunity for those intelligent and determined enough to master it. Sarah Mitchell had proven that the future belonged to individuals who could transcend traditional boundaries, embrace technological partnership, and achieve excellence that redefined what seemed possible for human performance in collaboration with advanced systems. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.